We're here live via Skype with Gabrielle Rose, who is better known as drawgabbydraw on the internets. Hi, Gabby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. And where are you located?
I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I live in Berkeley at the moment,
Cool.
which
Were
is
you
just
always from there?
No, I'm from Texas originally and moved out here maybe like 5 or 6 years ago.
Cool. And
Yeah.
so since that move, I've been a super fan of your work for a long time. You're a longtime contributor to EatSleepDraw, and this is really exciting for like our first EatSleepDraw TV interview that I get to
Nope, so
interview.
crazy.
Yeah, so it's really fun, and I'm just curious, like, you know, since your move to California, how has that influenced your work? Because you have a lot of like very fanciful drawings and paintings, and like, how has your environment influenced your work?
That's a really good question. I know for a lot of people it influences them a lot, I think, but I almost feel like I'm sort of maybe one of the reasons that I draw is to maybe remove myself from my environment a little bit. um, so I don't know. I think my style has always kind of been that way, no matter where I've lived. I've lived in Texas and Chicago, and now here.
Hmm.
So if anything else, maybe it's more of an escape from my environment, and that's the way it looks. That's why it looks the way that it does. Although the landscape here and just like the natural world here is really, really beautiful, and I think that I'm starting to incorporate some of the kind of like the plant forms into my work, just kind of like tall trees and lush settings, which the Bay Area has a ton of. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And like, I noticed that, like, what's your process? Like, what are your favorite mediums to work in? Because it's like all, it's very like floaty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I use ink, which can either come from like a micron pen or I dip nibbed pens in ink, which is kind of fun. It feels old fashioned, my little glass ink jars. And then I also use watercolor. And that's basically it. It's really nothing more than that.
And how long did, like, I know your drawings because I'm actually, I guess I'm an owner of one of your drawings, I guess.
Yeah, I think you are.
And like, you sent me a small little card. Like, how long does
Mhm.
that take you to render and finish, dry and then ship?
Yeah. It depends. The more detailed ones can take hours and hours, but I found that sometimes what takes the longest is just waiting for the paint to dry because I use a lot of water when I use watercolor. And I
Okay.
think that, yeah, half of it is just sitting there. So I usually have two things going at once, and this one's drying, and then I start another one. So, but the whole process can take a long time for that reason. Yeah.
Cool. So, I'm not going to ask you your age, but I am going to ask you what
Okay.
your first thing you ever drew was, and maybe how old you were when you started, like.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I actually just asked my mom this morning, and I'm sorry this is kind of going to be a depressing answer, but the first thing that she remembers me drawing is these little faces with like tears running down them and just like crying and crying. And
Were you
I
like
was
an emo
drawing.
child?
I know. Well, apparently, she says it's because we moved. There was a time in my young life when we moved from Texas to California for a little while, and she said that it made me really, really sad. So that
Uh,
I was and then she was like, "Oh, and I think you drew some scribbles," and I saved them in a box. But that's her first memory of the first thing I ever drew.
cool.
Yeah.
And like, do you have any? So you always were drawing and doodling and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, always, always. In my spare time, just for fun. At school, which I think probably a lot of Eat, Sleep, Draw contributors do as well.
Right.
Class doodles.
Totally. Totally. And like, do you have any formal training in art? And like,
Nope,
what do you
not
do when
really.
you're not drawing?
Oh gosh, when I'm not drawing, I ride my bike. I probably internet too much on Tumblr. Also, probably like a lot of Eat, Sleep, Draw contributors. Um, yeah, explore the city, go outside.
Cool.
I teach. That's my day job, so I'm often busy grading papers or planning too.
Oh, what kind of stuff do you teach?
I teach language arts for fifth grade and eighth grade, and then Spanish for high school.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So do you like de-stress? You come home and you just start drawing. You put on some music, like.
Sometimes I do. So yeah, sometimes I do that. If I'm not watching like Don't Tell Anybody, but like a Real Housewives show or something like that, then
Don't
I'll come
tell
home.
anybody, but
Don't
this will
tell
be on the
anybody.
internet everywhere. So.
But if it's not that, if I have my the wits about me, then I'll just sit and draw. It's really nice to do that after a long week.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so all your stuff is very character based and fanciful, and I don't even know if that's a word. I mean, you're a language arts teacher, so I mean, I
It's
don't
a
know.
word. You can make it a word.
But are all these creatures part of a bigger world, or like I don't know, like they feel like they're all part of the same environment, and like have you ever thought
Yeah,
of doing something bigger besides these little one-off little pieces, like a huge mural with all these like
right.
creatures?
I think I would do something bigger if I had the time and the space. I My apartment is so small that I can vacuum the whole thing without even unplugging my vacuum cleaner. So I have like a little desk to work from. But
Welcome to
that's
the
something I
club.
would really like to do. So yeah, maybe in the future or over the summer when I'm not teaching too, because it just takes up a lot of time.
Right.
Um, but as far as the characters and everything being part of a world, I think that maybe used to be when I was younger kind of the case in my head. I sort of had like a land and everything existed within it. But I think now each character or thing sort of more as a representation of how I'm feeling at the time when I draw it, and less connected to like this greater place that I've created for them. Yeah.
Okay. So, who are some of your favorite artists? Like, what that inspire you, or that they may not inspire you, but you look at all the time, or that sort of thing.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked, Lee, because I actually brought two books. I have them right here that I look at
Awesome.
all the time.
Show and tell. I love it.
I like Aubrey Beardsley very, very much. And here's a book of like a ton of stuff, black and white, really simple
Oh yeah.
lines. So if I am feeling uninspired, I'll look at this book. And then I also love Kai Nielsen, I guess is how you say it. And the cover isn't very interesting, but this is full of really gorgeous illustrations.
Oh, beautiful.
And yeah, I think a lot of my style is informed by Kai Nielsen. So yeah, old children's books I love. I love Miyazaki movies. So
Totally.
yeah.
So you've been an artist for a long time, or whatever. What are some goals that you have as an artist? Like, do you want your own show? Do you want to have do you want to do a children's book? Like, what's your ultimate goal as an artist?
Ultimately, well, I feel like I'm taking it a step at a time. I just started selling prints online and everything the last year or two, and that's gone pretty well. So my first baby step goal is to develop that a little bit, and then I just find that the longer I'm online, the more people kind of find me for projects. And I guess my hope would be that if it's not a full-time job someday, then it maybe could be fully like my part-time job. Through commissions or selling things. And I want to collaborate with other creative people. That's really, really important to me, as just like for my own growth as well, not even just to make money.
Right.
So
just for pure
yeah.
awesomeness.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I just want to thank you for joining us here on EatSleepDraw TV. And
Yeah.
where can people find your work, your websites? Go ahead, plug all your stuff.
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm on drawgabbydraw.tumblr.com, and that's my handle pretty much everywhere. So I'm on Etsy, drawgabbydraw.etsy.com. And I think those are the two most important places. Yeah, my Etsy, my Tumblr. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Gabby.
You, Lee.
Woo! Bye.
Yeah. Okay, bye.